So we were doing GS Mains paper 2, July 2017, and we have covered a lot of news. First news we have covered was parliamentary reforms. Second was Sino-Indian relations. We have seen all these things. And then issue plaguing rural community, how there is an alienation, how there is a glorification of urbanization, Doklam issue, how sensitization is the need of the hour, ISIS, that now Iraqi people need to win over its people, India-Iran issue, that again, there is a certain, what do you say, Iran is talking too much about Kashmir, and we have to remind them that we are not Pakistan. Pakistan is a case similar to North Korea, and India is an entirely different case. Right? Okay, now moving on. So there are other topics which we need to discuss today, and those topics are, the first one is India-Israel, right? Now what is going on here? Right, now the first thing is Narasimha Rao government established full diplomatic ties in 1992. Okay, now with Mr. Modi's visit, that is our Honorable PM or Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Damodar Das Modi's visit, India has for all purposes dehyphenated. Remember this word, dehyphenated. Hyphenation means earlier we used to talk about Israel and Palestine in the same tone. Now we have dehyphenated the relationship, and we have dehyphenated our ties with Israel and Palestine, something Israel has always wanted. Moving on, and talking about same India-Israel issue, Netanyahu, that is Israel's head, he's gushingly described the relationship between two countries as marriage made in heaven. Earlier, in simple terms, they used to talk about that Israel is being treated as a, what do you say, servant, and India-Israel relation is a kind of a thing which India is not acknowledging in public. But now all those things have been washed away. Now India-Israel formal relationship has been established. You can say that. Although Narasimha Rao government has already established it in 1992. Moving on. The thing is, there is a very interesting thing. Netanyahu has said that India-Israel relationship is a relationship which is a marriage which is made in heaven. But interestingly, he has said the same thing about China-Israel relationship also. So again, you have to think about what to make out of that particular thing. Moving on to Cyprus issue. Now Cyprus issue, you don't need to do PhD regarding Cyprus issue. Now what are the things which you need to understand? There is an issue, there is a dispute between two countries, that is Turkey and Greece, regarding the small island state which is in Mediterranean Sea. Now what are the things which articles are covering? I will tell you, there are 2 points which you need to remember regarding Cyprus issue. First one is, UN must quickly pick up the pieces to restart talks on reunification of Cyprus. Second one is, deadlock between Turkish Cyprus state in north and Greek Cypriot Republic of Cyprus has to be resolved, because there is a deadlock which is occurring between Turkish Cyprus state in north and Greek Cypriot Republic of Cyprus. Okay, moving on to the next topic, that is corruption, which is a deep malaise. Now, with its tentacles spreading to every branch of the state, corruption silence has never been higher. Right? We earlier used to talk about license Raj. At that time, corruption was there. Even after LPG reforms, corruption is still there. Now, essentially, neoliberal answer is that many vestiges of license Raj remain. Enforcement capacity is still weak, and reform process needs to be given more time to bring down level of corruption. So critics are saying that and even there are certain arguments that corruption has reduced, but little bit more time has to be given to the whole process, and after that it will certainly reduce. Now we have seen demonetization and all those things, so suddenly you can say that corruption is reducing to a certain extent. Now again, but the real explanation for exponential increase in corruption is much more complex and nuanced, and we need to dig deeper. So still we need to think about what are the causes of corruption, what are the causes of these hawala and all those things. Okay, moving on. So the next topic is EU Google tussle. Now again, EU has imposed certain sanctions on Google, and EU is saying, or EU has a fear of Google market power, right? Now critics is saying that Google is too big compared to its rival, right? 80% market share in Europe's search engine market has been covered by, or has been taken by Google. But again, it is not a legal monopoly, as anybody is free to compete against it. Google does not have a legal monopoly. It has a monopoly because it is that good. Microsoft, Yahoo, and even Google's own social networking site Orkut are notable big victims of competition. So earlier Orkut was a big thing, but now Facebook and all, Twitter and all these things are ruling. So after a certain point of time, it is said that again somebody else will come who will rule over Google. So again, not to deny, dominant businesses can at times get away with their misdeeds temporarily. So again, we can say that even though Google does not have a legal monopoly, but since it is that big, it is such a big company, so it can do certain things which can hamper other companies' progress. Also, EU regulators are not apolitical, hence regulatory overreach bad for innovation and consumers. So that means whatever we are doing is, whatever EU Google tussle is there, EU has to impart certain constraint and has to impart these what is the restrictions on Google or sanctions on Google's after due considerations only. It should be a last resort. Moving on to Paris climate thing. Now, US, as we know, has withdrawn from Paris climate, right? So US policy currently runs against the global consensus. Out of E20 or what do you say? G20, sorry, I talked about E20. So it's G20. So now what has happened? US has withdrawn. So 19 countries of G20 recognizing Paris Climate Pact as irreversible. So you can understand, out of G20, one country has withdrawn and other 19 are saying that it is irreversible. So you can see a tussle which is going on there. Moving on. So now we are talking about codifying legislative privileges. Now what has happened in Karnataka Assembly has imposed fine on 2 journalists, and it not only fine, they have imposed imprisonment also on. So you can say that they are misusing these legislative privileges. Now what is the issue? Privileges is becoming a tool in the hands of ruling party. For example, again Karnataka Assembly imposing fines and imprisonment on 2 journalists. Now there is a need for codifying privileges and giving primacy to citizens' right to free speech over legislative privileges. Okay, now US House of Representatives working smoothly without penal powers for over 2 centuries. Now remember, US, they have not imposed penal power and for like last 200 years. Australia also took codified privileges in 1987. So again, India need to codify these privileges both at Legislative Assembly Council level as well as at the center level, right? Okay. Now moving on to CBI's autonomy. This is a question which is going on like since forever, right? Now somebody is saying that CBI is the handmaiden of government, and like there are 3 views regarding it, and we'll talk about all those 3 views. The first view is saying that CBI has to be placed under an independent body to investigate cases without government interference. The second point is CBI, Income Tax Department and Enforcement Directorate, 3 instruments which government has used for political purposes and pressure they apply is always by way of inaction. Okay, they act only when government wants them to act. So this is one view. Now the second view is fault not so much of the organization as of the people who shape its structure and define its power. Second point of the second view is CBI is a first-class investigating agency as long as government doesn't interfere with or influence its function. Okay, now the third view about CBI's autonomy. Now what they are saying is it wouldn't be fair to damn an organization for its poor recent performance and ignore its long-term record. Whenever anything happens, anything bad happens, we always talk about CBI should, investigate it. So there is a certain amount of prestige associated with CBI and we should not forget it. Such as the confidence of public, judiciary and media that there is a frequent demand that CBI investigates sensitive and complex cases, especially of corruption among upper echelons of public service. Okay, now what are the reforms which are needed in CBI? First is tenure of director needs to be enhanced. Second, terms of office are made sacrosanct. Third, CBI need to be given reasonable financial and administrative autonomy if it has to live up to its motto of industry, impartiality and integrity. So what is the motto of CBI? Industry, impartiality and integrity. So I will keep this particular video up until here only, and in the next class we'll continue with July and I will try to complete it as soon as possible.